Okay, so we started with a reminder of how to do a geometric decay problem. And we took the 88 divided by 100, gave us this. That is called the common ratio. But I implored the kids to write it like this. Why? Because it shows that when you have a 1 minus something, you have decay. You can tell it's a decay problem from the minus, and because that is the decay rate. And if you just had 0.88 in there, you'd be really tempted to say it was an 88% decay rate, but it's not. It's a 12% decay rate. One more thing, when you put this into Schoology, a lot of kids say, what's the rate? They'll say 0.12. That's not a rate. That's a decimal. What's the percent? What's the rate? 12%. Do you get the difference there? 12% is different than 0.12. So if they want the rate, give them a whole number. I know that's a little simplified. Is there such a thing as 0.12%? Yes, but that's less than 1%. It's like part of a percent, and that's not what you mean when you say 0.12. 0.12 is 12%. Okay. So then I asked kids to put that in the calculator and see what they got for the 8th term. So now let's do that. I'm going to go to my y equals, and we're going to use 0.1 minus, I'm going to change that to a minus 0.12. And I know some people are going, why don't you just use 0.88 right there? I can tell you from my experience, you'll get it right a much higher percentage of the time if you take that extra second and convert that to a 1 plus something or a 1 minus something. Then you should have gone here, gone u, which is right above the 7, sub 8, end of parentheses, equals, did you get 35.9? Raise your hand if you had that. Okay, awesome. All right. Any questions so far? How'd you get this far? Okay. Then, let me make sure that you understand kind of where we're headed with this lesson. If I give you numbers that are going up over time, that's increase. If I just added 30, have a good time, good luck skiing. If I just added 30, then it would have been arithmetic. Today, all of ours are going to be geometric. So I can trust that that was not an add 30. Instead, how would I get the common ratio, the thing I multiplied by? What did I do again? Yes, 50 divided by 20 is the common ratio. And then when I get that, it's going to be 2 point something. Let me think this through. That would be, 2 would be 40 over 50, and there's extra 10, 2.5. Now, kids that put that in the formula tend to go, oh, so Mr. Server, you're saying that I had a 2.5% growth rate. Nope, you don't have a 2.5% growth rate. You don't have a 25% growth rate. You don't have a 250% growth rate. No. I suggested you write this as a 1 plus something or a 1 minus something. So instead of 25, you'd put in 1 plus what? What's the same as 2.5? 1.5. Now can you see it's 150% growth rate? You see why writing it as 1 plus something helps? Otherwise, you'd have thought it was maybe a 250% growth. It wasn't. It was a 150% growth. You take this part, you move the decimal a couple spots, that's the growth. Okay? So then if I put that in the calculator, I would have u0 equals 20, u sub n equals u sub n minus 1 times 1 plus 1.5, not 0.15, 1.5. Would you all please find the u sub 5? It's going to be a big number. Okay, here's what your equation should look like when you've got it in properly. We're starting with 20. We used n min as 0. If your n min still says 1, you didn't catch that I've been using u sub 0. You want to fix that. The top number should be a 0. Okay, now I'm going to quit out, and I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to find what I asked you for, which was u sub, what did I ask for? 5? Okay, u sub 5. Did you get 1953? Okay, now, here's the question that would get a lot of you on the test. You can even look at this and say, what was your growth rate? Was it 15%? No. Was it 150%? Yes, it was. Okay. All right. That's all there is to this. Now, what I've got in this bottle here is some seeds. And they're dry right now. I wanted you to see them in their dry condition. Now, since you're my 6th hour, I'll go and actually water these things right now, and then you'll see what happens over the weekend. Now, it's not going to go crazy over the weekend, but it will start to grow. They're just seeds, but just get them wet. You soak them in that water for a while. And then it's got a screen on the top of the bottle, so that it'll, like a mesh, so that when you flip it upside down, they don't just like stay drowning in water. You dunk them really well, and you let them soak for a while. But then, basically, you have these moist seeds that you keep in just on the shelf. Okay, I'll just keep them in room temperature. And then they're going to start to grow. And you're going to see, we're going to measure the growth by just doing this. The height right now is about 1/2 of a centimeter in the jar. And then we're going to just write down, oh, after 1 day, well, I'll have to write down the first couple days. Frankly, there won't be much growth in the first couple days because that's one of the reasons I want to do this on a Friday. And we just started exponential growth today, so it's perfect. There won't be much growth Monday, Tuesday, next 3 days. But when you get back here, all of a sudden they're going to start growing. By the end of next week, I bet you it'll be almost full, this entire bottle. It grows exponentially. So take a look at what they look like right now. I'll just hand them around. And there's different kinds of seeds in there. If you look close, you'll see some super tiny ones, some medium-sized ones, some bigger ones. Some of them are radish seeds. Some of them are broccoli seeds. And some of them are actually like bean sprouts. You've probably heard of that. Some of them are bean seeds. All right, so that'll be our good real-world example of exponential growth. Okay, so let's actually, I think you're ready. I don't think we need to keep going. Let's just jump into the homework. So I'm going to pause for a minute while I pull up the Schoology quiz. We are going to grade some of last night's homework, but we'll do that in a minute. Pausing for right now. Okay, so here's our Schoology quiz. I want to get started on that before we go grade old stuff. So I hope I've trained you well enough to know it's this one divided by that one, since it's for sure geometric. And the reason I know it's geometric is I can look and really easily see it's not just adding 50 each time. If it was adding 50 each time, it would have been arithmetic. But since it's not doing that, it must be a geometric one, and therefore I divide 150 divided by 100. And since I'm a math teacher, I know that that just moves the decimal back a couple spots, and I have a 1.5. Raise your hand if you knew that. Okay, awesome. And that is the common ratio. That's it, 1.5. Don't overthink that. But it's the growth rate that would be 50%. That's this. That's because I've suggested you write that as a 1 plus 0.5. That'll mean that's the percent increase. Okay, so that was a percent change was 50, not 0.5. That'd be different. That'd be 0.5%. 50% change. Okay? And this one was, was it growing or decaying? Growing means getting bigger. It was growing. Capital G. And it was I for increase. That one was pretty easy. Now let's go on to part B. Yes? No, you can write 50 or a 50 with a percent sign, and either one will be accepted. Okay, on to part B. R, well, I'm thinking you just divide these two. Since it says it's a ratio, it can't be a common difference, so they wouldn't call it R. Okay, so I'm going to divide those two and get a decimal. Now I'm going to put it in there, but I'm going to be really careful not to get sucked into thinking that's the growth rate or the decay rate. It's not. Can you tell me what it comes out to when you divided 0.29375 by 73 point, what? 0.4, thank you. So remember, 0.4 is the R, that's the common ratio, and that is going down, and so it's decay. But the percent is not 40%. You write the 40% as a 1 minus 0.6, so you are correct, 60% change. Isn't the R 0.4? Okay, so if R is 0.4, then this is 0.6. Because 1 minus 0.6 is 0.4. The total, 0.4, is the same as 1 minus 0.6. So the decay rate is 60% decay. That's what I'm trying to teach you here. Don't just use the same number over again. It's an easy mistake to make. All right, and this was a decrease, so you use a capital D there. Okay, and I think you got the idea now on those. So, yes? Yep. Good question. I'm accepting it as 1 plus something because that is, the smarter way to do it. So yeah, you can do that, but well, let's just cut to the chase. What would it be if you were going to use 1 plus or 1 minus something? If you used 1 minus 0.08, it would be right, because that's the same thing as 0.92. So I would have accepted that. But you could also put in 0.92. I'm more of a hound on this than other people are. Other people just tell the kids to put 0.92. I know that this is smarter because I know where you're going. Putting it in as 1 plus or 1 minus something is smarter because, let me just show you. Here's what, by the end of next week, or actually, it's a little further than that. It's like about a week and a half from now. Here's a typical problem. Let me show you. You have a $2,000 loan, and you have payments of 1 plus 0.05 over 12 plus 400. That's a typical problem by the end of next week. Do you see that there's a 1 plus the rate? See how they got it set up with a parentheses and a 1 plus? That's why I think we should start doing that now. Because by the end of next week, you'll be like, oh, this isn't that hard. This is the annual rate. And this is monthly. And that's your payment. So that's where we're going. That's why I'm trying to show you this 1 plus or 1 minus thing now. It'll help you with your common, and that's the biggest mistake on the test. Common ratio, 0.87. Growth rate, first of all, it isn't growth. Decay rate is not 87%. So if you had written this like this, you'd have known it was 13% decay. And you wouldn't have said 87% and got it wrong. Okay, so anyway, enough on my high horse for that. I strongly encourage you to use 1 plus or 1 minus whenever you would say 0.88, say 1 minus 0.12. Yes?
I just had a question about this quiz.
Yep, so back to the Schoology quiz.
Question 2, it says growth or decay, but it doesn't say enter as G or D. Should we type it out or?
Use a capital G or a capital D for growth or decay. I checked for somebody else, and the answers are single letters that are capitals. Okay, now I know you can finish that, and you probably will, but for right now, I'm done with the lesson for today, and we are going to grade the homework that you were supposed to do last night. So everybody take out the homework that was due today. You're supposed to have it done by midnight, but we're going to stop and grade it right now in class, and then resubmit it on top of what you hopefully already submitted last night. But you know what? If you got lucky if he didn't actually do it last night, because if he finished it just a few minutes ago, we're going to grade it. The computer will never know it was late because I changed the due date until 3 o'clock, or no, 2:40 today. So basically, we're going to turn it in right now after it's been graded. Okay? So everybody take out the homework that was due today, and that's all I have for the video for today.